Hello guys, welcome to another session. So here in this session, we will be discussing how you're going to handle the questions related to, public service motivation and also personal integrity. Very important area, and these are very critical questions when it comes to the UPSC interview because, in fact, they will reveal the values and principles that drive you as a candidate. So the panel wants to understand your motivation for joining the public service and how you will handle situations where your personal integrity might be tested. So, see, as a civil servant, you'll often face ethical dilemmas and situations where your moral compass will guide your decision. So, definitely, you can expect questions related to definitely from personal motivation, the public service motivation, and also personal integrity. Absolute integrity is one of the core principles that we always discuss. So my interviews, if you see, and then my friends' interviews, my mentees, these questions related to several questions about the reasons for choosing public service and how I could ensure that I act with integrity in my role, whatever situation they are giving. So these are questions we have often witnessed, and it's very important that you need to be very clear about your motivation. It should be a genuine motivation, and that means we will create a genuine motivation, and you need to demonstrate that your decision will be guided by strong ethical standards. Okay, so 1 minute, guys. So, see, we were talking about public service motivation. When you talk about public service motivation, it refers to the values and the sense of purpose that drive individual to serve the public and contribute to the welfare of society. So, it's about having a genuine desire to improve the lives of others, ensure fairness and justice, and make a meaningful contribution to the development of society and development of country. So whenever you are answering questions about your motivation for joining the public service, it's very important to reflect on the personal reasons that led you to choose this path. So for that, what we need to do, we need to create a story. If you don't have a story, we need to create a story. If you don't have a genuine motivation, we need to create a genuine motivation. So that's how we need to work on this area. So what you can do is you need to show a desire to make a positive impact. Based on this, whatever I'm giving you the guideline, we need to create a story. We can sit together, we can create it, or you can make it yourself just by following this. You need to show commitment to social justice and equality. You need to show that contribution to the nation building. So this is what you need to show as the story or the genuine motivation. So desire to make a positive impact. So many candidates are motivated by their desire to make a tangible difference in the lives of others, whether through improving governance or enhancing public safety or working on socio-economic development. So you need to show that desire to make a positive impact on the lives of others. And then some candidates are driven by a commitment to social justice and desire to address inequality, corruption, or the lack of access to public services. That means commitment to social justice and equality. So you need to show that. So these combinations, right? And some others may be motivated by sense of duty and a desire to contribute to the development and progress of the nation. That means contributing to the nation building and society. If you can combine this and create your genuine motivation or your story, your reason for public service, that is going to be the best. For example, if you are aiming for, they'll ask you why you want to become an IAS officer. You can say, this is just an example. Don't tell exactly the same. Add value to it. Add the dimension which I've given to you. You can say, I have always been motivated by a desire to improve governance and ensure that the government policies reach to those who need them the most, especially the marginalized communities who often got ignored. And I believe through IAS or civil services, I can contribute to creating policies that reduce inequality and improve access to healthcare, education, and the economic opportunities for the poor. Now, suppose your preference is IPS. See, this is again what I'm telling you is don't repeat the same. You can add value to it. The elements that I have discussed, you can add to it. You can take from this, you can add to it, make it your own. If you try to copy the same, what will happen is it will not be genuine motivation. You need to add your contribution to this. Okay, definitely that you need to make it your own, because that is the one which you're going to repeat again and again and again across the mock interviews, across the one-to-ones, everywhere, and finally in front of the board also. So you need something as your own genuine motivation. Okay, IPS, that was my preference. So here, my motivation for joining IPS comes from my belief in justice and public safety. I want to protect citizens, ensure that the law is applied fairly, and work towards reducing crime and violence in society. So the IPS, this service, offers me the opportunity to make a direct and positive impact on public safety. That's why I want to become an IPS. So it is very common, that you will have to emphasize your personal commitment, right? Your personal motivation. When they ask questions, you need to show that genuine motivation. In my interviews also, I've always emphasized my personal commitment to serve the public and explain that my motivation stems from a strong belief in the importance of justice, fairness, and making the governance more accessible and efficient. So this elements is what they are looking for. Now that you know that what they are looking for from you, if this question is asked, you need to deliver that. It's not that you watched a movie and you got motivated and you want to become IPS. You watched a movie, you got motivated and you want. Never tell the truth if the truth is that. You need to know what is the demand of the question, why they're asking this question. If you know why they're asking what they're asking, then you can answer and then you know what you need to answer. I repeat, if you understood why they're asking what they're asking, then you clearly know what you should be giving as an answer. Okay, so if they're asking this question for analyzing certain qualities, then don't tell the truth. The truth, maybe you got motivated because of you seeing an IPS officer or seeing an IAS officer or watching a movie, but never tell that. You need to create a genuine motivation that they believe that it is genuine and coming from heart. It should come from mind, but it should look like it is coming from heart. So that's how you need to present that. Okay, now when we talk about personal integrity, that's about staying true to your moral principles, even when faced with difficult choices. So personal integrity, absolute integrity is one of the most important principles that we need to look at. For civil servants, this means making decisions that are guided by ethics, fairness, and transparency, regardless of any external pressures. So, how can you demonstrate your commitment to personal integrity in the interview? That's the question. Always talk about honesty, transparency. Talk about fairness, impartiality, resisting any kind of pressures from political leaders. So these are the areas that you can reflect upon, and then you can show the kind of integrity from your side. So, guys, civil servants must act with honesty in their dealings at any point of time, whether it is in handling public funds or interacting with colleagues or communicating with the public. Integrity means being transparent about your actions and decisions. Now, acting with integrity require treating everyone equally. That means impartiality, fairness, regardless of their background or their status. It could be a marginalized section, it could be a well-off section, but you need to act impartial. So, as a civil servant, you must ensure that your decisions are impartial and based on law, not influenced by personal biases, not biased by religious biases, or caste based or regional biases, or any external pressures, right? And most often, civil servants face pressure from political leaders, the business people, or certain interest group to bend the rules or act in ways that are unethical or in their favor. So, demonstrating integrity means standing in the face of such pressure and making decisions that are in line with ethical standards and law. So, you need to resist such kind of pressure and you need to move with the law. You need to follow that ethical standards which is expected. So, you should be in a position to reflect these in your answer if they are giving such kind of questions. For example, if you are asked how you would handle a situation where a political leader pressures you to approve an illegal project, what you can say? So you can say that I would firmly but respectfully, guys, the words that I'm using is very important. Follow that as much as possible. So no one will give you like this, right? Ready-made, well prepared. So my answer will be I would firmly but respectfully explain that the project cannot be approved because it violates the law and compromises environmental safety. I would offer alternative solutions that meet legal and ethical standards, but I would not compromise on my integrity at any point of time. So again, if you look at the context of law enforcement as an IPS officer, if you're asked how you would handle corruption within the police force, what you can say as an IPS officer or as a senior officer, I would ensure that any officers involved in corrupt practices are held accountable through legal action, regardless of their rank. So it's crucial that law enforcement remain transparent and trusted by the public. Public trust is at most importance. And I would work to build a culture that promote integrity within the force, or culture of integrity within the force. So this is how you can answer. In one of my interviews, I was asked how I would handle a situation where there was pressure to overlook certain regulations in a government project. So I explained in that case that my first responsibility was to, the law and to the public interest. So that's the first and primary responsibility was to the law, whatever is the law that I need to look for, and then public interest. And I would not compromise on legal and ethical standards, even if it meant facing political or bureaucratic pressure. Whatever be the situation, your priority is the public or the public interest, larger public interest, and the law. Okay. Now, what the structure for answering these questions, right? See, whenever you answer questions about personal integrity, you can follow the structure that I'm going to give you now. In almost all the cases, we discuss this. So the advantage of structure is even if you miss something, everything will covered in the structure, what they are looking for. Right? Only thing is that you need to add some value here and there, depends on the question. The question may change, the scenarios may change, but what they're looking for, what you need to give them always remain the same. You need to change certain values to that, right? So first one, you need to identify the ethical dilemma, right? And then state your ethical principles. And then you explain your decision and you can demonstrate its long-term impact. I repeat, identify the ethical dilemma, state your ethical principles, and explain your decision, why you have taken that, and demonstrate its long-term impact. So start by clearly explaining the situation that presents the conflict of interest or a moral challenge, what the situation is. So in fact, this will set the stage for how you will approach the problem. So the board will understand, yes, you have taken this in a correct way, right? Then they will be more eager to listen to you because you understood the dilemma. Now the question is how you're going to solve the dilemma or take decision. So they'll be more interested to listen to that. After that, you outline the ethical values that guide your decision making, and these could include, honesty, fairness, transparency, accountability, integrity, the same, concepts that we discussed. So you need to reflect upon that. And after outlining these ethical principles, explain how you apply them in this situation and what decision did you make and why was it the right choice from an ethical perspective. Explain that. And finally, emphasize the importance of maintaining integrity in the long run. Acting ethically builds trust with public and ensure that governance remain effective. So you need to mention about all these. So this is how the structure will be. Understand the ethical dilemma, talk about your principles, ethical principles, explain your decision, the long-term impact. I'll give you an example. Let's suppose you are asked how you will handle a case where a business offers a bribe to secure a government contract. Okay, so the ethical dilemma, what is that? It's that accepting the bribe that would violate the, I'll say from my perspective, the ethical dilemma here is that accepting a bribe would violate my integrity and compromise the fairness of the process. So identify the ethical dilemma. Then my principles of honesty and fairness will guide my decision, and I believe that the public must have trust in government contracts. So you state your ethical principles. I would refuse the bribe and ensure that the contract is awarded through a transparent, competitive process. So you explain your decisions. And this would maintain public trust in the system and ensure that resources are used effectively for public benefit. So you demonstrate the long-term impact. So this is what you need to do. In one of my interview, I was asked how I will handle a situation where political leader pressure me to favor a particular group in a government project. I've discussed this in many cases, but again, the situation comes, I need to repeat the same. So I explained that my decision making would be guided by fairness and transparency. And I would ensure that all groups were treated equally according to the law. So by standing firm on these principles, I would maintain public trust in project and in the government as a whole. So that's how I answered the question. So guys, why I'm giving so much of example, theoretical examples and from my experience and from my friends and my mentees is because you will come across different scenarios, right? See, the personal integrity is any case non-negotiable, but civil servants often face practical challenges that require, balancing ethical principles with realities of governance. So you need to talk about that also. It is non-negotiable. I need to follow that principles of fairness, transparency, accountability, integrity, and everything, but there are practical challenges. See, guys, always stand firm on ethical principles. There is no question about that. Find always practical solutions, implementable solutions. Engage with the stakeholders. Right? Integrity should never be compromised. So, no matter how difficult the situation, whether you're facing political pressure or you're facing a resource constraint or there are competing interests, your ethical standards must remain intact. So that's first and most important thing. Stand firm on ethical principles. That's something which you need to show as your quality. Okay, and then you need to uphold your integrity. That is non-negotiable. But it's equally important to find practical solutions that address the immediate needs of the situation. So sometimes what is ethical may not be practical. Sometimes what is practical may not be ethical, but there are situations where you need to take a middle path. So this might involve, finding alternative approaches that are both ethical and effective in that situation, right? So we will talk about a different scenario when it comes to the crisis situation. That's different. So here we need to find a middle path or alternative which goes both ethical and effective. In some cases, you will need to engage with different stakeholders, such as the political leaders or community groups, to explain your decision and work towards a solution that benefits everyone while maintaining ethical standards. So, engage with the stakeholders. That's very important. So, you need to identify all the stakeholders, all the different sections who are involved in this. It could be political leaders, it could be community leaders, it could be some sections of the society, right? For example, if you're asked how you will manage resource allocation during a crisis while facing pressure to favor certain groups. So you have a pressure to favor certain group, right? So what is the ethical dilemma here? That's the same. So what you can say is, I would ensure that the resources are allocated based on need and in accordance with ethical principles. So you state and you stand very clearly on your ethical principles. But at the same time, I would explore ways to ensure that all stakeholders feel their needs are being considered, perhaps through open communication and transparency in the decision making process. So here you're finding a practical solution. In my interviews, I explained that in situations where there are practical challenges, I would remain committed to ethical principles. There may be situations where there are practical challenges, so you remain committed to the ethical principles, stand firm on the principles. At the same time, work with all stakeholders to find solution that serves the public at large. Integrity and effective governance should go hand in hand. Okay, so I'll share again one of my personal experience. In one of my interview, I was asked how I would handle a situation where I was pressured to bypass regulations to expedite a government project. So I began by explaining that while expediting the project, it might have short-term benefits. Bypassing regulations would compromise the integrity of the project. So you identified the ethical dilemma. Then I emphasized that my decision making would be guided by transparency and accountability, and I would ensure that the project follow legal requirements, all legal requirements. So you state your ethical principles here. At the same time, I would explore alternative ways to speed up the project without breaking the rules, such as streamlining bureaucratic process, etc. So you're finding a practical solution, right? And by standing firm on ethical principles while finding a practical solution, here you can see demonstrating that the integrity and effective governance can go hand in hand. So that means you're demonstrating the long-term impact also. So simple, follow the structure, identify the dilemma. Here you identified the dilemma, follow the principles, find the solution, your decision, and its long-term impact. So here, by standing firm on your ethical principles, you find a practical solution, but at the same time, you can demonstrate that integrity and effective governance can go hand in hand, right? So my point here is questions about public service motivation and personal integrity are very crucial, very critical, very important when it comes to interview because they reveal the values that guide your decision making. Your personal motivation for joining civil services is very important. You need to have a genuine motivation. If you don't have, frame it, cook it, make a story based on the principles that I have given. So be sure to reflect on your personal motivation for public service and demonstrate a strong, genuine commitment to ethical principles. Always balance integrity with practical challenges of governance. Don't simply talk about integrity alone. There are practical challenges. So ensure that you make decisions that are both ethical and realistic, implementable, and effective. So guys, that's about this session. What I want you to do is practice, practice, practice. Take any one of the questions that I've given to you in this. I've given 6 examples, 7 examples. Take any one, work upon yourself. If possible, work on the 7 examples which I've given to you. And you can even send the video to me. Do it in mirror in front first, and then record a video, and then work with your friends, work with your mentors. Get prepared, practice, practice, practice. That's what ultimately make you perfect. So that's about this session. Thank you so much. If you like the video, consider sharing it with your friends who are taking the interview. And if you are looking for any mentorship program, one-to-one sessions, you can get in touch with us. So see you in the next session. Thank you so much.